Survival horror. It's a genre that almost every gamer has encountered in some form. Whether you've played it yourself or just heard the names Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Dead Space, these games didn't just entertain, they helped shape an entire corner of the gaming world. Today, survival horror is more than just a label, it's a legacy, a feeling, a unique blend of gameplay and emotion that keeps players on edge. But what exactly is survival horror? What separates it from just a regular horror game or a standard survival game? On the surface, it might seem straightforward, but once you really dig into it, there's so much more to explore. The tension, the resource management, the fear of the unknown. It's all part of what makes this genre so unforgettable. Before we dive deeper into this world of survival horror, I just want to take a second to ask for your support. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm on the road to 200 subscribers, and every single one helps me get closer to making content my full-time passion and a full-time job. It really does mean the world to me. Alright, with that said, let's dive into one of gaming's most chilling and captivating genres. This is survival horror. Survival. It's the act of continuing to live or exist, especially through something difficult, an accident or hardship or a personal struggle. Survival isn't just something we see in movies or games, it's something we all live through. Maybe it's getting through a rough time at work, dealing with financial stress, or navigating through relationships. In those moments, you are not thinking about thriving or being comfortable. You're just thinking about making it through. In gaming, survival takes many forms. Think of games like Minecraft, Subnautica, Grounded, or The Forest. These games often begin with a desperate scramble to stay alive. But over time, you gather resources, build shelter, and reach a point where you are no longer surviving, you're thriving. You start to master the world around you, and while that's rewarding, it also removes some of the tension. You've made it. The threat fades, the pressure lifts. But what if it didn't? What if that feeling of being on edge never went away? That's where horror enters the picture. Horror grabs that idea of being safe and throws it out the window. It places you in a world where you are constantly vulnerable, where danger can come from anywhere, and survival is not guaranteed. There's no thriving, only enduring. Every moment is filled with uncertainty. Horror. That word alone brings up feelings of fear, shock, and maybe even disgust. Most of us think of horror movies, terrifying, suspenseful stories that we watch unfold. But here's the thing, in movies, you are the passenger. You don't get a say in what happens. Now, imagine if you were in control. What if the horror depended on your choices? Sure, there are plenty of horror games out there. Outlast, Amnesia, and others that do a great job at making you feel helpless. You are often running, hiding, or watching events play out with little power to change them. While that can be scary, it sometimes feels unfair. Like no matter what you do, the outcome's already decided for you. These games usually rely heavily on jump scares and scripted events. It's effective, but also fleeting. You scream, you survive, and you move on. But when you mix survival with that horror, everything changes. Now you are scavenging for items, deciding when to fight or flee, and managing resources. You are not just trapped in a nightmare, you are fighting to survive in it. Every bullet, every healing item, every decision matters. Suddenly, it's not just about fear, it's about strategy. You ask yourself, can I sneak past this enemy? Do I have enough ammo? Should I use this healing item now or just risk it? These constant decisions add an entirely new layer of tension. You feel more in control, but also more responsible for what happens to you. When you die, it's usually not because the game cheated you, it's because you made the wrong call. Maybe you wasted ammo earlier, maybe you didn't plan ahead, and that makes every mistake feel meaningful and every victory feel earned. Even inventory management becomes its own challenge. Space is tight, and sometimes even your important key items take up space. You'll find yourself dropping useful items just to carry one item that opens the next area. And that choice, it could come back to haunt you in the very next encounter. And that brings us to the series that put this genre on the map. This was a game that proved horror isn't just about fear, it's about thinking, surviving, and fighting back. Let's dive into how Resident Evil shaped this genre and continues to influence it nearly 3 decades later. Resident Evil released March 22nd, 1996 and sent shockwaves as one of the first popular horror games made. The game, while now outdated, is still the grandfather of survival horror and the horror genre of gaming in general. Resident Evil introduced the system of exploring and scavenging for puzzle pieces, ammo, weapons, and more in a horror aesthetic. They couldn't just swarm you with zombies because of the limitations at the time on a PlayStation 1 from the dinosaur era. So they decided that less can be more because you never know which corner a zombie or two will be around. Every time you see a zombie, you have a dilemma in your head. How should I deal with this? Should I kill it or just stun it? What's my health at? Or how much ammo do I have? Resident Evil didn't just make horror games popular, it defined what survival horror could be. Back in 1996, it introduced a formula that countless games would follow: tight inventory management, creepy exploration, limited ammo, and slow, suspenseful pacing. It wasn't about mowing down waves of enemies, it was about choosing when to fight, how to conserve your resources, and whether it was worth using your last healing item. Even the fixed camera angles and tank controls, as awkward as they seem now, actually made things way more scary back then. You never knew what was waiting around the corner, and that constant tension was exactly the point. You can see Resident Evil's DNA in so many games that followed. Think Silent Hill, Dead Space, or even the Last of Us franchise. They all took something from that original formula: that feeling of dread as you open a new door, the satisfaction of solving a puzzle to unlock the next area, the careful planning before every fight. It all started here. Even modern indie horror titles like Outlast or Amnesia owe a lot to the ideas put in place by Resident Evil. It proved that horror didn't need to rely on jump scares alone. Instead, the fear came from atmosphere, pacing, and the constant threat of danger. And what's really impressive is how Resident Evil has evolved over time, from the fixed camera angles of the early games to the over-the-shoulder action of Resident Evil 4 to the terrifying first-person perspective in Resident Evil 7. It's always found new ways to scare us. The recent remakes, especially Resident Evil 2 remake, showed the original formula still works today when given a modern polish. The franchise didn't just start the survival horror genre, it's been reinventing and pushing it forward for nearly 3 decades. And that wraps up today's video on survival horror, one of gaming's most intense and unforgettable genres. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to see more contents like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and help me reach my goal of 200 subscribers. I truly appreciate every single one of you for watching and supporting the channel. Thanks again for being here, and until next time, stay safe. Peace.